This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... the Ewok Movies, Caravan and Courage, and its sequel, Battle for Endor. Now, Nate, you're the one to bring up these movies as an idea for a show topic, and I know quite well that you have some very, let's say, strong feelings about the Ewoks and their origins. I think we should start out by letting you share some of those feelings and let our listeners bond with you emotionally about Ewok.
Well, I mean, I hate them is a little strong. My hatred has cooled over the years, but that's not because of the Ewoks from the movies. That's because of the expanded universe stuff. Not these movies, but just like the books, the novels. The books are all the same thing, but the books and the comics. You know, the one comic kind of softened me on them a little bit was this with the Empire. It was one of those comics where they a collaboration or as a collection of different smaller stories, and they made the Ewoks on Endor with the stormtroopers look more like a hostile American, a hostile nation, not nation, like
a hostile people.
Yeah, kind of like in the Amazon rainforest. I almost said American Indians, but it's no, because it's
more like those islands of
Amazons.
Little tribal people who throw spears at every plane that flies overhead by a mile.
And the story was told through the view of the stormtroopers, and they're like, this new recruit comes in, and they're haunted because the Ewoks drum all night to keep them awake, and if one of them wanders off to pee, they disappear because the Ewoks take them by night. And slowly but surely, like, they're getting whittled down. They're mentally, just attacked. And that's why
you hear before you die is a little yub from
right. Pretty much, yeah. And so that really kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now, like I appreciate that. The Ewoks, as they stand though in the movie, like as they came out in the movies, Empire Strikes Back, it's awful. I mean, I know the point. The point of it was like, oh, this is like the representation of the Viet Cong, Vietnam War. You have a big, empire, technological people coming in, and they're beaten by lesser technological stuff. But what even is the point? Like, I get when you're shooting a stormtrooper with a blaster, they drop real fast. That's stupid. But okay, it's a blaster. You stab a guy in full armor with not just like a spear, but a spear with a stone at the end of it. There's a reason why the Bronze Age wiped out the Stone Age. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would that? I mean, at most, the stormtroopers should be annoyed. I mean, and they're wearing helmets. I mean, if helmets, then what's the point of wearing helmets when we work places? Like when they're on construction sites, don't even bother, because if anything falls from any kind of height, you're dead. It doesn't matter what. Yeah, like, okay, they drop the rocks, and no shit. Like, I would expect them to be injured, but like just slaughtering all the stormtroopers with
rocks tied to sticks, kind of thing.
I mean, it's moronic.
Maybe all the stormtroopers, maybe this was like Vietnam, and they're all just faking injuries so they could go home on shore leave.
There you go. Well, it's supposed to be the 501st, right? I don't know if I remember that correctly or not. But the 501st is Vader's personal guard, or personal unit. So I'm not sure if it's the 501st on Endor or if they were on the Death Star. I'm not 100% certain.
Every time the Empire always talks about their best trained soldiers, I am always disappointed when I see them in action.
Yeah, always,
every time. Like those Imperial Guards, the guys all in red. Ever since I saw them in Return of the Jedi, I was like, those guys are cool. I want to see them do cool stuff. They're obviously badass, and I have yet to see them do anything that made me go, they're worth it.
But the only time you see them is like do anything was the comics. But again, the comics isn't everything. And I'll be honest, I haven't read those comics. I just know of them.
No, you did see them in one of the newer movies, Return of the Jedi, I believe.
You saw them standing there.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was saying they're very disappointing for being the elite crew.
Just standing now, like
it took 3 of them to take down 1 Mandalorian. That doesn't seem right either.
Well, those weren't the Crimson Guards. Those were the Praetorian Guards. Now they were still all dressed in red, and they're also supposed to be more badass than the Crimson Guard. So it's I don't know.
So that makes their case even worse for them. Then,
yeah,
even more pathetic.
I get it. Like during the Mandalorian, it took 3 of them, and he still couldn't take down Jin. And okay, sure, he had Beskar armor, but theoretically, so did they. And
there's supposed to be a oil killing machine that works together, and it was like, they took him down. They took Jin down, but it wasn't easy. It took some effort.
it took some effort. On top of that, like Grogu helped, okay, sure, but also Grogu successfully fending him off while a
Yep.
very unwieldy robot kind of got him away. And it's just, I don't know. Like, I was seriously disappointed. Maybe there was just like, they didn't want to send the Praetorian Guards. So they sent like the 3 new recruits. They had other more badass Praetorian Guards over there with Snoke or whatever, Snoke, wherever he happened to be, if he wasn't around then. But like, they're like, oh, here's, Larry, Curly, and Mo. Fuck those guys. They came in here. They're
These
always
3 guys who couldn't even make it as stormtroopers. We're gonna just put them in some costumes.
right. Yeah, that guy's always cooking fish in the microwave.
Yeah,
And this other guy's
we
he's late all the
get rid of him.
time. Yeah, and this other one, there's like he was in the middle of a very questionable sexual harassment suit that we really just kind of want to sweep under the rug. So we're gonna send him that way. Hopefully something happens to him.
Yep. It's cheaper just to have him killed in battle with the Jedi than to have deal with all the lawsuits and everything.
He has no family, so we need to pay out anything. So
Yeah.
of course, who knows if the Empire even does pay out anything?
I really doubt it. This is the same place that doesn't have handrails in all their areas where they should. So,
well, you think, you address that, and you think about Andor series, the Andor series. The thing that made the Empire so scary was its bureaucracy. So maybe they did. In the movies and stuff like that, they kind of look at them kind of they're evil because they kill babies. It's like, okay, sure, but
on the other side, it's like, well, yeah, they're evil, but they do give me full health coverage and a retirement plan. So I mean,
yeah, and on top of that, it's even scary if you realize while the Empire was killing those babies, there's forms per baby in triplicate they have to file, through the the Census Bureau to make sure their numbers are accurate. And they're like, okay, well, when you killed this baby, how exactly did you kill this baby? Because we really need it. We need all the numbers to go. I need to know what file to put this in. Do I put this under B or do I put this under F?
Right. And this is all very traumatizing for me, I assure you. But I'm only 4 years away from retirement. I'll be fine.
Right. Going back to the Ewoks. I mean, my initial, when I heard they were supposed to be Wookiees,
that was what I was thinking about, because I remember you talking about how it was originally supposed to be Wookiees, and you were excited.
Yeah. And now I actually did a little bit of poke around, and the reason why they didn't want to go with Wookiees was the way I mentioned earlier. They wanted a lesser technological species to take down the Empire.
Gotcha.
And because of Chewbacca, they had established that Wookiees were technologically superior.
Yep, they had blasters and they could work on starfighters and so on and
so
forth.
I mean, I was like, okay, I kind of understand that, but there's still, the Viet Cong, since I'm referring to them because Lucas did, they weren't fighting American soldiers with fucking sticks. Sure, they would have some booby traps, but they had guns too.
Yeah, so it wasn't like you said Stone Age versus Bronze Age. It was, slightly more even footing. Yeah,
and so I mean, the Wookiees, in my opinion, would have been a better choice.
It would have been a far more exciting battle, and
they're saying, kids like the Ewoks. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, but I know me. I was a little
only
boy.
The slower kids that eat paste. Wasn't a huge fan
more. As a child, I've been way more excited if a bunch of Wookiees had come out and started attacking people,
just picking up and ripping stormtroopers in half like nobody's business.
That would have made more sense if you had one Wookiee using a stormtrooper to beat another stormtrooper. That is awesome. Meanwhile, we've got a bunch of Ewoks running around screaming like children and somehow taking an entire garrison out with sticks.
And if you think about it, the Empire would literally just carpet bomb that entire planet if they're that big of a problem. I mean, why fight the Ewoks on the ground when you can do 2 miles up?
They blew up a planet to spite one princess.
You're right.
They didn't need to blow up Alderaan. There was no political, there's no they weren't uprising. They weren't doing anything. As a planet, they were just there. And in fact, they were a part of the Empire and a contributing part. Lord knows how much taxes they lost by destroying that planet.
Right. One of the giant commercial and political hubs of the entire galaxy.
Yeah, not just
the smartest people that are just screw it.
And not just financial, but human resources. I mean, it's a planet that's pumping out bodies. Many of those bodies maybe went to go be stormtroopers. Yep. Many of them went to go bureaucrats.
The people working on the Death Star, they're like, hey, we're going outside Alderaan. That's my home planet. My family's down there. That's cool. Right. Wonder if we'll get some shore leave. Oh, wait a minute. Why is a cannon fire warming up?
And then why'd they blow up Alderaan? Well, Princess Leia, she was a sassy bitch, so we blew it up.
I mean, they could have just found an uninhabited rock about the same size and been like, we could just make an example out of this.
The Empire and the way they do things, you'd think they'd be a little more intentional.
Yeah, a little more cost effective, a little more forward thinking.
But again, I get, it was the 70s. It was supposed to be cartoonish. It was, the whole
Space opera.
space opera. But then they did it again. Of course, we could have a whole episode about my complaints about the last three. Um, but even, they had another giant Death Star thingy, and they blew up planets, and at least they had it justified. Like, okay, these planets rebelled. They are like the central focus of the Republic, or the New Republic. We're taking those planets out, so we would have a better chance of taking over everything. That makes sense. But blowing a planet for no reason, otherwise, just like, yeah, take that, girl. Like,
Yeah, right. You'd think if anything, they'd want the scrap metal off that planet or whatnot.
and I don't even know how I got here. I'm totally lost how we got the train that got us here. But going back to the Ewoks, yeah, it's just the Wookiees would have been a significantly better choice, and it would have made more sense. They took out an entire garrison of stormtroopers. Never mind teddy bears that could be taken out with a good strong kick.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they come right up to you. Just like good boot right to the gut would probably end one of them pretty good.
I mean, it'd be like being taken out by chihuahuas. It's like, look, I understand it'd be kind of scary if like 50 chihuahuas start attacking you, but if you were taken down by those 50 chihuahuas, you had it coming.
Yeah.
Like that, it was your time.
This is-
There's no excuse why you were taken down by 50 chihuahuas.
Although we do have a scene later in the first movie where a Ewok attacks one of the giant Gorak, and I thought to myself, "Ooh, that's kind of effective." It literally runs up with his little axe and like chops the dude like right on his big toe knuckle. I thought to myself, "Oh, that would really suck."
Oh yeah.
Have a little tiny dude just run like smash and then take off. Like, yeah, that guy might win that fight if I'm just on the grounds that I'm not chasing after them on a busted foot. But then, as we'll see later in the movie, the Ewok decided to stay around and fight and died out of the process.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was back when Star Wars wasn't afraid to kill people, and not be all Palpatine's back somehow.
Yeah, and the thing about that, I know we're jumping movies again, but the thing about Palpatine's back somehow, they didn't even have the foresight to plot that at all. Like, oh, he's back somehow.
Yeah,
Well,
literally, that's the line is
Yeah.
Palpatine's back somehow, and
Somehow
everybody makes fun of
Palpatine's
that.
back.
Like, yeah,
And they don't even give you the option of, or not even the option, but like even the excuse of like, oh, let's hear the thing. Like, oh, let's see what happens.
yeah.
Let's
They could have been like Palpatine's back somewhere. Here's the plans and what we were able to get from the
It's-
Empire. There's
it's
a
the
little
opening
backstory,
crawl. By the way, he's here. And then of course in the very beginning, the guy just like, oh yeah, by the way.
but yeah, Poe's like
back.
Palpatine's back somehow. Yeah, and everybody's just like, huh. That's just poor writing.
Yeah. So again, we're veering off course as we do.
Not really. I mean, we're still on Star Wars. I mean, we haven't
Yeah.
started talking about weird things like, the fish market in China.
Right.
That'd be more off topic than this.
That's true. So anyway, and also I looked up, both of these movies take place between Empire and Jedi. Okay, that's 3 years. There was 3 year gap between Empire and Jedi. But now, when they originally filmed these, I don't know if you researched this, but this again, it was supposed. They originally thought this movie would take place way after, but because of Wicket, they had to make it more present because he was supposed to be a child in Jedi. That means during both these movies, there are stormtroopers above them. They are making the Death Star literally in orbit. Like it would not be out of place if some of the establishing shots of these TV movies, you saw the Death Star in like as a moon in the sky.
I could almost see them going back and add that digitally after the fact, and I would almost
don't know
be
why they
okay with
haven't.
that, to be honest. Yeah, because that seems right up their alley. But also, Disney kind of distanced themselves from this movie. Even they didn't even want to put it on Disney Plus until the actor Eric Walker started a petition back in the early 2000s. They didn't get it on Disney. Yeah, they didn't get on Disney Plus till 2021 because they're just like, screw it. We don't want them to know about this movie, really. Which kind of surprised me because anything that'd make them money, I would think. Because these movies do have their fan base, kind of ish.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing that got me was they I thought it was like when Disney took over, they basically said, okay, any of the movies that like all movies are basically canon. The books, comics, all that stuff are not. And I just surprised me. I guess it doesn't surprise too much, but this became one of the ones like, oh, by the way, not them.
Yeah, that is weird because they were like, I guess it was just the core 6 movies from before time, not any little offshoot stuff.
The Christmas movie, I get it. Yeah,
I was just about to say, is Christmas special considered canon with the
absolutely not
Wookiee porn?
Absolutely not. And you know what? That's correct. Good choice.
Yes.
It is just. I will admit I've never sat down and actually watched the entirety of that movie, but I have watched YouTube videos of it where people that go through. I've basically seen the whole thing.
I've sat down and I've watched it beginning to end.
It damages your soul.
So back to the Ewok deal. It's the post-Return of the Jedi era, and George Lucas was looking to make a more family-geared Star Wars half-hour short for his daughter. She liked Goldilocks and the Three Bears, so George Lucas said, "Hey, Ewoks are kind of like bears. Let's do an Ewok one-shot. Woohoo! My daughter will like that." I mean, bears, Ewoks, they're kind of the same thing, right? So
yeah, I mean, they're teddy bears.
Yeah, exactly. So Lucas got his idea together and started shopping the show to networks, but ran into the same problem he did with the Christmas special. No network wanted to mess with the half-hour thing. They were like, "Hey, man, we like the idea of an Ewok special. Make it a 90-minute movie, and you got yourself a deal." So ABC was the one that got that deal going. They got the movie to be made for their 2-hour movie of the week slot that I believe played on Saturdays. So George wasn't a huge fan of the fact he was going to take his 30-minute movie and make it into a 90-minute movie because he was still mortified about the Christmas special. He did not like that. He hated the reception. He hated how it turns out. He is scarred from that, and rightfully so.
Hated the reception? Dude, you made the worst TV ever. I mean, people have died watching that movie. I don't know.
I completely believe that somebody in the world has to have taken their life instantly after that.
Statistically, someone watched that show and died. Now, was there any direct correlation? We don't know that. But statistically, I guarantee you that movie was the last thing someone watched before they died.
Yep. Possibly because of that movie is the last thing they watched.
Right.
My life is going downhill. Wife left me. Kids hate me. The only thing I have is this Star Wars special I've been waiting all week for.
It's kind of like I tease a friend of mine. They went to get a colonoscopy, and shortly thereafter, the doctor killed themselves. And I still tease them about that because I'm like, "Oh right, I don't know whatever they saw in there, they couldn't bear it."
That would be awful. You just get your colonoscopy done. You're like, "Hey, doc, how to look?" And he just has this 1,000-yard stare, and he's not even blinking. He's just
in front of you, just blam.
Yeah. He just walks over to this drawer, just pulls out this little gun case, and just puts it in the collar. He's like, "Can't do it no more. Sorry."
Or he pulls the Hudsucker proxy, where he walks over the window, and just jumps out.
Yep, just straight face, just well, got to end myself on there. I looked up that man's colon, and something looked back.
Oh my god.
The movie was given a budget of $3 million. And for comparison, Gremlins was $11 million and Red Dawn was $17 million. Both movies released around the same time. That's a bad comparison because those are theatrical releases, but it gets you in the ballpark.
Right.
Yeah, and Return of the Jedi, I think, was $33 million. So this movie was made on a budget of 1/10 Return of the Jedi.
It shows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does. Although, honestly, it could have been far, far worse, too. So.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they, especially the stop motion they had was kind of janky, but you know what? It didn't suck.
Actually, interesting you bring that up. We'll get into the stop motion coming up here soon because they actually, because the budget was so low, they had to cut some corners and not do things as fancy as they did in the Star Wars movies. Stop motion was one of them. One dude who had kind of an interesting history on the production staff was the man who did the soundtrack, Peter Bernstein. He did the John Candy movie, Canadian Bacon, Will Smith's Wild Wild West, and the movie Silent Rage, where Chuck Norris battles a mentally ill man who's granted nigh invulnerability from medical experiments. Which sounds like a fun romp.
It does sound like fun romp.
Just Chuck Norris chasing down some giant dude who's like, "I like chocolate milk," and beating him up.
I actually flashed to the that one episode of Cowboy Bebop where the guy was floating around. He was a baby. He was like a child in a man's body.
Oh, yep.
Remember that one?
Yeah, that was one of the best episodes of Cowboy Bebop. One of my favorites.
It really was. It really was one of the best ones. I've heard pretty negative things. Like when people talk about the live action one, and they talk about why they have issues with it. That episode they bring up a lot.
Yeah, I can go on for about 15 minutes on why that live action remake just completely
dumped
on the legacy.
I still have to watch it.
You need to, because then we can complain about it.
Yeah,
watch the very first Cowboy Bebop live action one, because that's a mirror of the very first Cowboy Bebop one, which is a very good episode. It's the one where the guys have that spray that they spray in their eyes.
Yeah,
drug runners. Yeah, and
we
they
could
basically
do
get
a
addicted to that. And
we could do a mini episode of that because we don't necessarily need to do a deep dive like
yeah,
regular
it'd
shows.
be a pretty good
But
mini episode. Yeah,
yeah,
just watch those 2 episodes and then we can just sit around and complain because I do have strong feelings on why they completely messed up that series, especially that one episode.
well, they shouldn't just left it alone. Like those episodes are great. They are great in anime. Leave them be.
Yep.
Unlike some of the other things, like okay, Avatar. Avatar has a very specific story. So if you could do live action, you really need to start. Okay, this they find Aang. They have adventures. They get the water people. They get a water teacher. They get a stone teacher. They get a fire. All the stuff. Okay, there is a formula and a story behind that. But for Cowboy Bebop, yeah, there are spikes. There was a spike thing, but that wasn't really the driving force behind the anime. It was kind of like, oh, by the way, this is happening too. The shows were basically kind of one-offs. Like, okay,
Yeah.
here's our villain of the week. Let's go ahead and
Yep.
take him out.
I mean,
There was
sometimes they
no
have like
reason.
a couple episode arc, but yeah, for the most part, it's just one shot things.
Yeah, there was no reason to follow it like blow by blow. In fact, I heard
Yes,
some that are trying to do
exactly.
scene by scene.
Yeah, they could have also just completely done, hey, Cowboy Bebop, the lost missions, and just wrote all new stuff. They didn't have
Absolutely.
to rewrite the old stuff.
Absolutely.
Because
And you
there
could
is
just
plenty of gaps in the original storyline where it's like, hey, they were doing nothing for a couple of weeks. Figure out something.
yeah, I mean, it was before Spike died. There you go.
Yes, exactly. Just be like, hey, and before Spike died, there was a lot of downtime that we didn't show the first time. Here's those lost missions.
In the series either, they didn't really do a timeline. Okay, it was short enough time between episodes. They didn't age significantly, but those, it could have been like a year or two between episodes.
Yep.
There was
because
no
there was plenty of
reason.
times where it was just like, hey, we're going to cut in on them sitting around in their ship broke with no food and nothing and having no jobs for Lord only knows how long.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we're getting out, trying to get back to the Ewoks, but yeah, they could have done something like that, and there was no reason to tie it down like they did.
Yeah, I will say the casting was pretty good that they did on that. Most of the
Granted,
people they got
I'll
were
give
pretty
you that.
spot on.
I'll give you that, and I will say I did feel kind of crappy because when they cast the female, I for a minute before I caught myself, being a toxic man, I was like, but her boobs, but I mean, I get yes. That I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm the bad person for thinking that, and I realize that it's not about that. It's about the actor and what they can do. And from what I understand, like her look otherwise was fine. It really like in terms of the rest of her, I still haven't seen it, so I don't know how her performance was. But from what I can see, like I've taken out that little the little 13-year-old boy in me who wanted to see her dress anime accurate, which would basically have been a hint, bit of porn.
Pretty much.
I get
They're
it.
like,
It's fine.
Here's your 6 inches of cloth to cover your entire body, lady.
Mm-hmm.
Although her outfits weren't really as scandalous as some I've seen in anime.
Oh no,
or even regular animation. I mean,
yeah, in regular anime, I mean, she was tame. Let's be real. I mean, hell, even like Japanese fighting games, she was she was pretty tame.
Yep. Here's a cat girl in nothing but a tiny string bikini.
But I had back when I saw her. I wasn't super young, but I was a teenager, or late teens, early 20s. She made me have funny feelings seeing her.
Yeah, that's what she was designed to do, and she did
exactly.
It well.
Mission
and
accomplished.
Also, it wasn't just looks too. She had cool personality as well, which kind of helped things. It was like, oh, she's a badass and hot, which is kind of a double whammy in my mind. Now, while we're talking about the casting of Cowboy Bebop, we can go on to the casting of the Ewok movie. So, far as actor casting, Warwick Davis got to return as Wicket because, I mean, who else are you going to get for Wicket? The dude is the consummate Ewok, and I'll say he's a pretty good actor. Although,
but let's be real. Let's be real. Even if they did recast him, no one would know. But I do.
No, they probably wouldn't have.
But I agree. Like I'm glad they did. It was 100% the right thing to recast him. But let's not kid ourselves. If they got some other little person to come in there and do it, no one would notice.
Well, I'm kind of jumping ahead myself, but what a lot of people are saying is one reason that Lucas wanted Warwick Davis back in this because Lucas wanted to and work a little bit more with Warwick Davis and get some stuff done or experiment a little bit with shooting, get some techniques down for a movie he was going to do with Warwick Davis eventually called Willow.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, and if you watch these movies, it does have a Willow feel about it.
Yeah, I'll give you
the
that.
high adventure wandering through the countryside. Mm-hmm. Honestly, Willow's a far better movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I need to rewatch that. I will say the TV series was pretty good. Did you watch that?
I have not.
Okay.
I heard a lot of people complaining about it, but I mean,
The
I still
problem
need
I
to see
have
it.
with it is in the first like third of the season, or maybe the first half, the acting is really wooden at times, especially Warwick Davis. It feels like he literally just like glanced at his lines, walked on set, and was like, "We're going east," and then just walked off. I mean, but it kind of settles down a little bit after that. But yeah, at the beginning, there's a few lines where you're just like, "What the hell is going on?"
You talk about the series, right?
Yes, the series.
Okay.
Yep. So the series does have some issues, but overall, it's pretty good. It's a fun little romp. And also, when I was looking through the credits, I learned that Tony Cox was in the movie and one of the original Ewoks themselves. Tony Cox is a dwarf actor from Me, Myself, Irene, Friday, and Bad Santa. Thought that's kind of nifty to learn.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a black dwarf actor. He had like
that's exactly what I was talking. Okay.
Yeah, he had a real
that.
good run like in the late '90s, but he was one of the original Ewoks. I did not know that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, then again, it's also not that surprising because
no, it's not because there's only so many of those actors around that you can get. I mean, yeah.
I remember there was a when they were trying to shoot. What I can't remember what movie they're trying to shoot, but like some other movie was being shot that used little people as well. So like Hollywood was devoid of little people for actors. So they're like, oh my god, we need little people.
Yeah, right. They all took a job in Mexico for a couple of weeks. And
like, wait a minute, what are we gonna do?
Back to the casting. For the role of whiny jackass Mace Tawani, they hired actor Eric Walker. Eric became a child actor at the age of 6. Why? Because his mom wanted a child actor. He started with a Jack in the Box commercial and then had a couple bit roles on TV before this movie, including a one-shot on the show Webster, which was, you remember that? That was one of those odd early 80s movies where a rich white dude decided to buy a black kid and keep him as a pet sort of thing. Yeah, there was like a rash of those. And the one old rich white dude owned like a girl robot, which is kind of creepy too. And
oh yeah, I like.
Yeah, a lot of like early 80s.
Well, okay, I like it in memory. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those. As a kid, you can watch it like, but as an adult, you're like, something seems odd about a rich old white man owning a robotic daughter.
Yeah, in memory, like it is super creepy. He's like completely lifelike daughter, quote unquote daughter, and like who you could easily erase her memory. From
Right. That's what I was just about to say. She probably has a little like reset format switch on the back. Like, well, I'll just reboot her at the beginning of this day.
Yeah. Oh, she just saw or contributed in something that's like a horror that any other person would be horrified the rest of their life. All to do is and done.
I've got this button here. I'll just reset that whole Epstein Island experience from her mind. Right. I don't know why they programmed this robot to cry. Oh wait, yeah, I do.
Why did you program me to feel pain?
Yeah, why?
I hate that kid. By the way, back to the Ewoks. I hate that kid. I mean,
I do too. I remember watching this movie as a little kid, and I even hated him back then. I was like, "You whiny little chode."
He is the cause of every problem they have on that trip.
Yes,
every single one. He causes all of it. In fact, it was his fault his parents got caught in the first place because he wandered off and his parents chased after him and they got captured. And then when the Ewoks help them, they find them, they take them back to their home where there's clearly part of a settlement. And he calls them it's like it doesn't know what
like
you're
you
saying.
Savages, don't listen to them.
Dude, I know. I know they look like bears, but they clearly have intelligence. These are people.
Yes. And I kind of
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I can kind of get it when they first showed up, and the first time he saw the Ewoks with his sister, kind of freaking out. But they very clearly made it be like, "Hey, man, we're not here for problems." Even his sister was like, "They're not doing anything. They're not hurting." He's like, "No, I'm gonna shoot them."
Right, and it's like, and the reason why he gets in all this trouble, like is because he's being a dick. Just like they escape, and they first of all the big monster chase him, and because they escaped when. There's no reason to escape like that. They could have said bye or whatever. Like they were sneaking out there like they're being held hostage, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And then when they finally tried to I can't remember what else they were doing. They were doing some other thing, and he saw this cute little thing in a tree, and he goes over and he goes to grab it.
Why did he do that? I want to know because he saw that cute thing, and he literally went over there, and it wasn't like he wanted to pet it. It's like he wanted to yank it out of there and eat it or something.
Yeah, it's like, man, come on. Have you not learned anything since since I don't know 5 seconds ago?
Right. And it's just so irresponsible. I've lived in this corner of the world my entire life, and I still would not stick my hand in a tree not knowing what's in there. So right. At the very best, I would think I might get stung by a bee. Worst, I get eaten by one of those things in a tree like he did.
And even to the very end of the movie, where he's like, he kind of learns his lesson, whatever. He's still, I mean, I'm super glad. Like, he deserved to be killed off screen on the next movie.
Right?
F that dude.
Not
F him.
even the benefit of having a good on-screen death. Just
No.
literally,
Nope.
we're going to show a cannon fire, and then the little wristband goes
Absolutely.
bloop.
He did not deserve to leave that planet, and he deserved to end on that planet with off screen.
Yeah, it would almost be worth thinking that maybe he was just paralyzed from the attack and not dead, and just kind of had to lay there and get eaten by ants. That's
Right.
how annoying this child was.
They shot that building, it fell down on him. He's like weakly crying out where he's looking at his dead mom. He's like, "Mother," it slowly bleeds out.
Man, or he's just paralyzed in the space pirates fight. I'm like, pleasure slave, and drag him off.
Oh, and then jump into another part. I know I'm jumping into the movie a little bit, but it just reminded me. There's this. Wait. So yeah, I mean, another part that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed, maliciously. So they run into the wisps, and they actually call them wisps. Like if you listen to the Ewoks, they call them wisps, and they're flying around. And then the little girl comes out with a candle, and it absorbs all the wisps into the candle except for one. And then keep in mind, this just happened. It happened a few heartbeats ago, even. And they go down. He captures the little wisp, and he's looking at it, and it's looking all sad. And this little bitch goes, "Oh, it lost his family like us. You just killed their family. Like, the reason why she's sad, it's your fault. You murdered their entire village, and now you're like, oh, she's sad. Let's laugh at how cute. I bet you that thing was trying to murder them. It just was so weak. They're like, oh, ha ha ha. They're rolling around laughing because it's tickling them. And he's doing everything it can to get vengeance.
It's like, I will destroy you. Try to fly up his nose and destroy his brain.
I just couldn't believe it. Oh, it misses his family. I'm like, are you kidding me? You are the cause of that pain.
I really want that line to be given to Darth Vader after they blow up Alderaan, looking over the lane, like, oh, she lost her family.
Just James Earl Jones is like, oh, he lost her family.
Oh, you lost your family. Wah, boo. Oh, and also, too, after that little Sprite thing, there's a point where Mace just grabs and sticks it in his pocket for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it just...
Yeah, he just pulls it out like a little fucking item, like he's Link from the Zelda games. Just like, ooh, doo-doo-doo, here's my Sprite.
I mean, and I guess it did kind of help at the end with a giant. It flew around his head and stuff. But even that...
It's probably flying up a giant. Help me. These sons of bitches are crazy.
Kill them. They're over there.
Please, for the love of God, end this life of torture. I've been stuck in this dude's stinky pocket. But also, that thing that grabbed his hand and pulled him into the tree, that little critter, that puppet was actually the repurposed puppet from the asteroid that tried to eat the Millennium Falcon.
That makes sense. I thought I saw the thing before. Yep, I can see that.
Yeah. That was one of the scenes I read. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like I knew that once before. But yep, they just repurposed that, threw some moss on and whatnot, and just grabbed the kid and like,
And it makes you wonder, what was the evolutionary thing that would make okay, I know if I bring this little cute thing up, it's gonna attract what?
Right.
I mean, there's only so many stupid humans wandering through those woods to grab that thing.
Maybe whatever that was looked delicious to Ewoks or something.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Possibly. But yeah, you're right. That is a very odd evolution, unless the thing is part of the tree or something. Turns out the whole tree is alive. So,
and the Ewok. Oh, we're just sticking with the first movie right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So,
we can kind of drift into the second one. Honestly.
Well, I wasn't really going to talk. It's just one thing about this movie, and I'll talk about my other thought about this, but one thing about this movie was it really does it emulates Europeans going to other countries, and they're like, oh, this person's speaking another language, so I'm going to, in English, speak louder and enunciate.
Yep. Speak louder and start yelling at them because I don't understand them. No, when they warn me not to do something, I'm going to be like, it's okay, I'm white, I know what I'm doing, and then probably get killed.
And during the movie, the Ewoks drop English in there. I don't know if you noticed that. But
yes, they do.
Well, the wizard lady's like, oh, you threw it away. Like, wait, what? Why are you speaking? Because it's one thing if they had montage of them trying to teach them English. But I guess the Ewoks are pretty intelligent, but they're using words they had no business knowing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at what context would you understand?
Yeah,
Like,
I think at one
you
point the
threw it
girl says
away.
like Star Cruiser, and immediately Wicked grabs. He's like, "Oh, Star Cruiser up in the sky!" He's like, "Woo, look, making his horse
like
fly." It's like,
it doesn't. I mean, unless they're somehow telepathic, but that doesn't make sense either. And
there
then
is magic in this world, which kind of adds a whole weird element to the Star Wars universe.
well,
Unless
not
this
really.
is like
That's canon. Like there's canon, there's magic because there's the
Is there?
Force. Yeah, first of all, there's a Force. But if you watch the Clone Wars, the race Darth Maul comes from, they are a series of female-led witches. They are Force witches, and they actually have magic. So it's like they interact with the Force differently. They basically they don't, unlike Jedi and Sith, where it's like feel the Force and they manipulate it. They can actively go in there and change things using the Force as a magic medium. So that actually is. Now that being said, this took place in the 80s, so you also have to realize this came out probably around the Thrawn series. Also came out at this time. They hadn't really established the Force yet. Because if you read like the original Hand of Thrawn books, or I'm sorry, Heir of the Empire books, the Jedi are doing things that is ridiculous. Like it makes no sense. And if you try to place that into like as we know Jedi's now, it just doesn't work. There's no crossover. They were just doing that was I think one point they created a thunderstorm out of nothing. Like Jedi's can't do that.
Yeah.
So. But anyway,
yeah,
so
sometimes they play pretty
right.
loosey goosey with Jedi powers and what they can do.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
so I forgave. I forgave the magic. Okay, that's fine. But I had another point I was gonna go to.
Thrawn books came out in 1993, so about 8 years later.
Okay. It'll come to me. I had a point. I was gonna say it and I got lost. Anyway, continue.
It's about Force magic and how it's actually part of the universe. Okay. Anyways, back to Eric Walker, actor for Whiny Mace Tawani. So, anyways, after the Ewok movies, he didn't do a whole lot of acting after that of note. He did have a bit appearance in the new Leave It to Beaver show that ran in the 80s on the Disney Network. And something I didn't know, Disney Network's been around since 1983. For some reason, I thought it was like one of those 90s inventions, but it started in 1983 and ran a 7 a.m. to an 11 p.m. programming shift back in the Stone Age when TV stations weren't 24 hours. Remember that, Nate? Back when there's like sign-offs and...
you wake up, it was like America, it was like...
America's Beautiful or whatever,
America's
playing and flag.
It's like, oh. It was like...
Yep. And that was the trope they used in movies back then, that you knew somebody overslept on the couch when they'd wake up and it was like a test pattern. It's like, ooh, they slept well into the morning.
Well, it was that up until the 90s. Then if they want to prove someone was waking up way late, it would be like fucking these college girls are going downtown.
Yep.
They're like,
girls gone wild.
Right. That's when you knew you slept too late, when the Girls Gone Wild commercial started coming on.
The one I always remember from late night TV is the Education Connection commercial. Get connected for free with Education Connection. Get connected.
That must have been a West Coast thing.
Free. Maybe because it was for like a West Coast college thing. I think this was back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
But if you were awake after like 1 p.m., that commercial literally played every commercial chunk, sometimes twice.
Well, that was up there in the early 2000s, but I still don't remember that.
Yeah, you probably don't remember it because, I mean, you probably didn't hear it the trillions of times I did, because there was almost always a TV on in the background overnight while I was asleep during sleeping years. So, it just kind of got drilled into my head.
I would play DVDs and stuff to help me go to sleep. I didn't have TV.
Back in the day when it was a big flex to have DVD box sets of series because you couldn't get them anywhere else.
Right.
I have all the Family Guys on DVD, and people are like, ooh, that's snazzy.
Yep. That's funny you said the Family Guy, because a lot of times it would be Family Guy help me go to sleep, because that's basically the deal. I didn't have many DVDs, but the Family Guy's box sets are one of them.
Yep, and you just put them on, and the nice thing about Family Guys, they're kind of random enough that they didn't, really get into a pattern for you,
right?
Sort of. Yep. And after the new Leave It to Beaver show, little Eric Walker did a couple of shows here and there every year until the early 2000s, when he moved on to just mostly music production. Oh, he did do one movie I recognize. And that movie was the early 90s, and You Thought Your Parents Were Weird. That was a movie where the soul and voice of a dead Alan Thicke gets put into a robot body, and that robot goes back to raising Alan Thicke's family and porking his wife and all sorts of fun stuff.
You know how they do.
Yeah. You can actually picture exactly how that movie goes over. Because if I recall, like the dad died off camera. It's like, oh, the family said we're going to take his mind and put it in this robot he was working on. And then immediately the entire family's like, oh, that's our robot dad. Yay. They raised me, daddy. Ooh, love me, daddy.
You would think that would cause more pain than anything else. Like then they can't get past it. Like
yeah, right. There's like no possible healing. It's like, well, neat.
And then
they have a recording of my dad's voice playing over and over again, following me around.
And then it's like, okay, is this actually the dad, like his soul in here, or is it just like his data? You know, the data of his memories. So that's
are you basically just listening to a long voicemail from him?
Right. It's like an AI with like, okay, if they gave me this input, so I'm gonna piece these words together and give them back an input. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say earlier. Again, going back to and I know it's like I'm delving too deep into this, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Oh, there's never too deep of a dive for us.
So in this movie, they first of all, they meet the humans. Okay, they met humans again. This takes place before the Return of the Jedi. In Return of the Jedi, when they meet humans, they capture them with the intent to eat them.
Yep,
they are meals. But meanwhile, they find a couple children and they're like, oh, hey kids, let's help you guys out now. And you could say, oh, it's a different tribe. No, it's not, because Wicket's there too. Like, so it's the same tribe. Now,
after you met that whiny kid, wouldn't you want to eat all humans you met afterwards?
Well, when they do eventually take off, and, flash forward the second movie a little bit, when they leave, like, bye, I miss you, you're my best friend, blah blah blah. And on top of that, like in the second movie, again, I'm not going too deep with this one though, but they learn English now.
Oh, yep, and they sure didn't know English when they met Princess Leia.
Yeah, I mean, there's like.
Although honestly, that might have been just the Ewoks playing their hands close to their chest, their cards close to their chest, and be like, yo, we can speak their language. Don't let them know that. Don't let them know.
Well, and first of all, like these Ewoks must be very intelligent, because not only do they learn English fairly quickly, but also it says something that the humans didn't learn any Ewok. They never bothered to learn one. At no point does any of the human characters say anything in Ewok.
This goes back to the colonization theme, actually. Be like, oh, inferior Ewoks in their language. Screw them. Speak English, God's language.
You guys are lesser. Well, and we ended, I mean, in the Star Wars universe, English is basic. So, because that's why they kind of allow everyone to kind of speak. It's like, okay, this, as a galaxy, since we're one big kind of community of there's spacefaring people, we need one, like everyone has their own language,
common tongue, basically,
but we need one common tongue that we can, like, different planets can communicate with each other. And that's basically what they said. Okay, English is that. Fair enough. You know what? I can get behind that. But what I can't get behind is some random Ewok who's never seen a human before busting out English within a span of like a couple weeks.
Yeah, right. It feels like it's even less than that. It felt like the end of a conversation. They were rattling off 3-word phrases and stuff. I mean,
because the kids, like, this whole caravan of courage took place probably in the span of a few days. Let's be crazy and say a couple weeks. With the whole travel. Let's be crazy. It wasn't, but let's pretend like it was. There's still not enough time to learn the whole language, and then going. Again, just kind of popping over the next movie for a little bit. It takes place not that much longer, because there's still the daughter, the little girl's still a little girl, and they, the parents are trying to fix the spaceship. Not much time has passed. Meanwhile, like, not just Wicket, but a lot of them are are passable in English.
This is very true. So what we determined is Ewoks are a lot smarter than we think they are.
Right.
Almost devilishly smart.
Smart.
At one point, they were the most advanced race in the entire universe, and they're just like, you know what? We want to go back to a simpler time.
Right. Well, and probably a lot of Ewoks eventually got wiped out. There's the Death Star blew up overhead. You have a big giant space station like that.
Oh yeah, that should be just raining down all sorts of debris.
It was visible from the ground, so it blew up right over their heads. And so a significant, maybe it didn't happen right away because they were safe enough, during. So they have a little party afterward. But once all the people left, I mean, even if some of that large space debris kind of hung up in the air for a while, some of it's going to come down. Like the gravity eventually is going to hit, and it's going to become, it's going to cause some pretty substantial natural disasters. Well, not natural disasters, but fires.
There's going to be some insurance claims on that planet, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But have we ever established but here's the thing: we keep on saying Endor. It's not Endor.
It's the
Like, they're
forest
not
moon of
on.
Endor.
Yeah, is that the name? Like they. I mean, we never
Honestly,
call the moon upstairs. We don't call the moon like I don't know the
the
desert
rockin' moon of Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the rock moon of Earth. That's dumb. So
Yeah, honestly,
was
I
it
can totally
ever-
see why people get confused over the Endor being the name of the planet and this and that. Because I thought the name of the planet was Endor forever, because Forest Moon of Endor, it'd be like saying, "Hey, the Prince of France" or something. I don't know.
It's the Frankenstein thing. Everyone thinks Frankenstein's the monster. It's not. Frankenstein's the doctor. The monster doesn't have a name. The monster. It's just
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. But by the same token, everybody knows what you're talking about when you mention it. Have we ever actually seen what's on the real planet Endor, though?
No, I don't think we've ever gone there.
Interesting.
I mean, it has to be some kind of Earth-like thing because you see it you could see the planet in this movie. It's up above as it should be. It's pretty large because you're on a moon. You're not.
Actually, it'd be odd if the moon was smaller or bigger than the planet it was circling.
Here's the thing, though. Like when you're on the moon, like our moon, and seeing Earth isn't that big. It's actually fairly small. It looks like the moon from the moon.
Yeah,
Earth
because it's a long ways away.
Yeah, but in this movie, the planet's pretty big. It takes up a decent chunk of the sky, so it makes you wonder how close that moon is. And wouldn't that affect the gravity? Because it's the whole thing is about gravity. And if they're that close, there must be some wonky ass gravity shifts. Because the moon affects us. It makes the tides go up and down. Jesus, can you imagine the gravitational forces was doing to the
half the time you're sandwiched to the ground, the other half you're slightly floating above it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, don't go over. Make sure you're laying flat on your back between the hours of this and this, or else you're gonna get crushed. All your bones will break.
The equinox is happening this Friday. Everybody has to get in a cave and lay perfectly flat for 2 hours. Otherwise, you will lose your whole bone structure.
Well, maybe that's why the Ewoks are so short. Like their bone density is like, yeah, they're short, but their bone density, you can't even with a tungsten knife, shot by a rocket, you're not getting through those bones.
Right. Turns out those Ewoks, small as they are, they each weigh about 450 pounds. Just like solid muscle and bone.
Adamantium type thing. Like, what's that knife made of? It cuts through everything. Ewok bone. You'll never believe the things this thing can destroy.
That's what the Darksaber was originally invented for, Ewok flaying.
Exactly.
So the production crew on this movie, the Ewok movie, thought it would be fun to give Eric and Warwick a mic camera and some editing equipment and let them go around and do a behind-the-scenes style documentary. The duo called themselves W&W Productions, and you can find this video on YouTube. It's about 12 minutes long, and I think it's kind of worth checking out. It's got some neat little behind-the-scenes things going on. Did you see it at all?
No. How old was he when he did that, though?
What was that?
How old was Warwick when he did that?
Warwick was 14 years old in this, and if you watch the special, he looks like he's about 8. I mean, he is freaky young looking.
Oh, yeah.
And this also confused me because I know this. I never put much thought into it, but I always assumed Warwick was like in his 20s when he was Wicket and whatnot, because that's just kind of what I assume all actors are when they start.
He was
what else did I realize? He was like 12, I think, in Return of the Jedi.
That makes. I mean, yeah, I knew he was young. I thought it was younger than that, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yep. But the production thing was actually kind of fun. You guys see some behind the scenes stuff. Talked to a couple people, and one of the production staff kind of shared an interesting story. He went on to talk about how in a previous movie he worked on, him and the crew were setting up this shot where an actor was supposed to go up on a roof and do a scene. Well, it turns out that actor was like apparently dead scared of heights. Like even though he was like one story up on top of like garage roof, they had to set up this whole safety setup and whatnot because he was just not going up there. Did not like heights. But the crew thought this was kind of weird. They're like, "Hey man, of course that dude likes heights. He was a carpenter before he was an actor, so obviously he's worked on roofs before." Who worked for Lucas that used to be a carpenter before he was an actor?
Harrison Ford.
Correct. So I'm guessing Harrison Ford might be afraid of heights. Kind of, especially with the way the guy in the interview was kind of like sly about it, like, yeah, this carpenter dude didn't want to go up on a roof.
Yeah, that makes. I can see him slide that in there.
Yeah, but honestly, I can't fault Harrison Ford because my balance is bad and I don't like being on roofs. Because I will literally like tip over on solid level ground sometimes. So
I've changed. As I've gotten older, I've got more freaked out by this stuff. Like I don't know. Like my I don't know. I just can't do it as much anymore.
I know some people that all their life they can just go up on roofs and they'll just run around doing cartwheels and wrestling people. And I knew people that back in high school they would go up on their 2-story house and they would have like wrestling matches and try to throw each other off the roof.
I used to have no fear, and I mean that when I used to work in movie theater, what I would do is the wall was kind of had a bunch of grooves in it, but it wasn't deep grooves. But it was kind of a wavy sidewalls. I would get a ladder. I would position the right side of the ladder, just kind of inside that really small groove, and I would climb almost all the way to the top of that ladder and change the light bulb. And I mean, one side of the ladder is swinging around in the air, and the other side of the ladder is kind of tucked into a very small, like little wave in the wall. And like, it took a lot of balance, but I did it with no problem.
And of course, too, you're like a foot off, so you got 1 foot on the ladder, and you're stretching out, reaching towards that light bulb.
Yeah,
You're like, this isn't safe.
No fear, just like whatever. Here I go.
Nowadays, as an adult, somebody asks you to do that, you're like, hey, you go screw yourself, buddy.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. No.
I've even seen people do that thing where they got a ladder leaning against the wall and they need to move it over a few feet. So they'll just kind of like lean back a little bit and just like hop, jump the ladder over to the right or left a few feet.
I've absolutely done that.
Yep.
But not as far back as working movie theater. I used to do work at Macy's doing rugs and hanging. I had to hang rugs, and that was, some of these rugs are upwards of 50 pounds. And so I actually got pretty good. I get the ladder out and I would basically cradle the rug. I'd roll the rug up a certain way and then cradle it as I climb the ladder. At the very top of the ladder, take the rug, and you had to clip hooks on there. And you had to lift it up like one side and clip the hooks over the bar, and then push it off, and it would unroll. And there you go. But man, there were several times like I'm standing on the very top of the ladder, not just like, oh, don't go past this part. I went past that part. I'm standing at the top of the ladder.
Yeah, it's like, do not use this as a step. Do not go past this step.
Yeah.
Like,
and who listens to that?
That's just a recommendation.
I've never met someone who's never like, oh, I never go. The sign says not to do. It's dangerous. No, everyone I've ever met is like, oh yeah, I totally.
They take that as a challenge, if anything.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I had better balance, but then other times I just realized it probably would have gotten me in trouble and more broken bones than I want.
Yeah, fair enough. With great risk comes great reward and also failure.
Yeah, great failure, and I tend to lean more on the failure side. It feels like so. And also, I get it with the rugs because those things got to be a pain to move because that's like literal just dead floppy weight.
It is. It's awful.
Yeah, it's not like lifting wood or something that has some rigidity. It's something that you pick up and it's just like fighting you every inch of the way.
And they would dump a bunch of rugs on us. I'm here. I am flipping a 9x12 rug and a bunch of them on top of each other. And you're only supposed to have like maybe 20 stacked on top. And there would be sometimes there'd be like 35 stacked on top. And so and then some dickhead would come in and go, "Can I see the bottom one?" I'm like,
Yeah, you're like, oh, you son of a bitch.
And so I'd flip them all back. You flip them back to like halfway, but even if you flip them back halfway, you start piling up. So by the time you get to the bottom one, they can only see about 25% of it. And then if they like that rug, then the real journey begins. So then you roll that bottom rug up to the point where you can't roll anymore. And then you have to take the whole side, then flop it back over, like put it back down, then go to the other side. Now you got to flip it back even more because you're trying to get that bottom rug. It is a process. And
all the while the customers watching you being like, "Oh, that looks like hard work, young man," and you're just like, "Ugh."
And it really sucks when it's on sale on clearance. It's like $500 rug. Now, as someone who's buying something, $500 is a significant amount of money. Like I am I can't think of the last thing I bought that was not necessarily frivolous, but just not necessary. That was $500.
Yeah,
but then that $500, I got maybe, I don't know, $10 off that. So here I am killing myself for like $10 to $15, for a cheap rug. It was ugh.
Yeah, like things like, wow, I could just throw out a disc doing this accidentally, and that would be the end of that.
Yeah, I would actively sometimes talk people out of it. Just like, are you sure you want that one?
Be like, well, it takes me at least a half hour to get the rug sorted out, so you'd need to go to lunch and come back.
Yeah, I would recommend they go somewhere else, but a lot of times they're like, no, I gotta go. Can you go get this now? I'm like, fine, because I can't. They're not gonna let me say no.
Yeah, no. Right.
Okay, Ewoks.
So, despite that interesting info that we got about Harrison Ford from the documentary, W&W Studios was a complete failure. It shut down and laid off all its employees, all too the same year it was founded. Tragic, isn't it? Yet another young and up-and-coming studio dead in the water. Apparently, they actually got like ILM equipment to go back to their hotel room and edit all the stuff on too. So that must have been kind of fun because back then it was hard to get film editing equipment, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole revolution of entertainment.
Digital.
Yeah, it's like once digital came out and then smartphones, and then suddenly these people who are in these niche markets going, oh well, you need to pay me X amount of money because I'm the only one who has equipment. Now it's like my 10-year-old has that equipment. Like they could make something. Honestly, I'm not gonna say production quality. Like I'm not gonna say it's $1 million movie quality. That's because that's stupid. But it a decent quality enough to where it's like not an embarrassment.
Yeah. I've seen stuff. People have shot stuff on iPhones that have looked better than things I've seen on TV or certain low budget movies. It's like,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Totally. I have definitely seen some of that stuff.
What digital hurt the most too? Film schools, apparently, because the big thing film schools had was, for most people, that was the only way you could get access to learn on like film cutting machines and like all the manual old school cutting and film watching machines.
Yep.
Film splicers. Yep. Only way you get experience that is through film schools. But now you don't really need that experience. Film schools don't really have anything to hold over you. And I mean, some good YouTube tutorials and you can learn how to make a movie too.
Right. That's the thing. Like if you're good at self-learning, my problem is I struggle at self-learning. Because I have a tendency to get distracted, and I will say I learn better doing. Like doing it, I do pretty well. Just sometimes though, I'm like I could really use that additional, like someone holding my hand, going,
a mentor or tutor being like, "Hey man, get motivated." That's what a good teacher is good for.
Yeah, that is like I have to admit that by myself. Like there are things where like I really would benefit to someone coming in and going, "Okay, no, dude, you do it this way."
Yeah, like almost a personal motivation trainer or something like that.
If not even just necessarily motivation, just so I'm not banging my head against the wall for like 7 days.
Yeah,
to try to figure out one thing, because I
only to find out because you clicked one little toggle option in the options, and that's what fucked you up for a week straight.
Now, that being said, I will say, like doing it that way, learning by myself and learning by failing a lot, that does stick with me better. That 100%. Like if I'm trying to learn myself, if I'm trying to learn how to do something, and I just constantly fail, but then I just somehow I find that sweet spot, I got it forever.
Yep. Yeah, you get that sweet dopamine hit of accomplishment. You're like, yes, I have done this task. I am a man today.
Yeah,
that's the way I am.
Versus someone showing it to me, and like I will understand it faster that way, but I will get better at it.
It might not retain in your brain quite as much because you didn't have that trauma of failing and then succeeding. Yeah, I'm the same way. People can show me stuff and I'll learn it, but I do tend to learn it faster if I like give it a few whacks and fail at it horribly and handle the emotional crippling that can have. Back to the casting of the Ewok movie. Playing as Mace's sister Sindel was 4-year-old child model Aubrey Miller, who got the job for looking kind of like Shirley Temple and being the right age for the role. However, Aubrey could not read and thus not memorize her lines for the role, but she was very good at parodying people. So the production would basically just get the shot all lined up and set up for her, tell her line, turn on the cameras, and just have her repeat it back. Repeat that for the entire movie. You can actually see it.
She sounds so wooden.
Yep. She couldn't read. She couldn't memorize stuff. So you can actually see an instance of this in the W&W documentary where they just have her in the scene and they're like, "All right, here's your line, hun," and they tell it to her, and she immediately just repeats it back, and they're like, "And cut."
Why didn't they hire a professional? I mean, there are child actors. There are child actors her age. Like, shit, Macaulay Culkin. I know that's that's kind of shoot for the stars because he was like, as a child actor, one of the best. But like, I remember hearing like when he auditioned for was it Home Alone? He went in there, and okay, to be fair, he was a little older than 5. But he memorized the entire script, and they tried to throw him off. But they went in there. He was expecting to read like, I don't know, Act 2, Scene 3, and so they told everybody Act 2, Scene 3. That's what we're reading for. And they brought him in there, and they're like, "Okay, read Act 3, Scene 4." And at first what he did was like, "Oh no, I don't know what to do," and then he would immediately bust it out like he's like, "Okay, here it is." And that's how they impressed him. They impressed him because he had tricked them thinking he didn't know what it was, and he had memorized the whole thing. So, and I know there are 5-year-old actors out there who could also do that. So I don't know why they got an actor that could do that.
Probably her mom blew the casting director. I mean,
fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's the case, but
no, someone knew something.
Somebody knew somebody, or somebody was just like, "She looks perfect. She can't act, but she looks perfect."
That's exactly what happened with the fucking Avatar movie, man. Like The Last Airbender, they didn't get an actor. They got someone who kind of looked like Aang and did martial arts. That was it. And so he had no acting experience. So they brought this dude on, and it shows he has no acting experience.
Yep.
Like very badly shows. So, and then here we go. That little girl. Just, I mean, she was cute, sure, but there was Like,
Cuteness only lasts so long before it's just like, ugh.
it was so wooden and just like, oh, wicked. Oh,
Oh, wicked.
no.
Leave him
What?
alone, leave him alone. He's helping.
Yeah, he's helping us. Ah.
Yeah, the line in the documentary after she says it, she immediately goes, "I'm tired," and sits down.
Man, I'm like, look, man, I know you're not spending as much money as Return of the Jedi, but you're spending money.
I will say though, not to stick up for her, but there are a lot of famous actors who are known for never memorizing lines and literally just like reading the script 2 seconds before they wander out onto the set and reading
Yeah,
their
fair.
lines.
I've
Yeah,
definitely
I
heard some
mean,
actors like they have the lines are posted up in different places.
oh yeah,
stuff
Marlon
like that.
Brando in The Godfather comes to mind. He basically had to read all those lines like live on the set because he refused to memorize anything. Which is
Yeah.
weird because Marlon Brando is a well-respected actor, but
Well,
there's scenes where
then-
like Robert Duvall literally has the entire script on his chest for one scene, and Marlon Brando's just like reading it straight off of that.
Yeah, and like Apocalypse Now, that was awful from what I understand. Like he
Yeah.
not only did he not memorize the script, he was supposed like his character was supposed to be like emaciated and scrawny, and he showed up fat.
Yeah.
And like not only like complained the whole time, but he didn't want to read his damn lines. So
Yep. And also the Island of Dr. Moreau. There are some horror stories from that.
oh yeah, not only from him, but from oh man, Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer was like apparently didn't want to be there at all, and
Really?
made it very well known he didn't want to be there.
I didn't know
So-
that about Val Kilmer. I did hear the story about the reason that Marlon Brando wore that bucket on his head all the entire movie. And apparently, like during a break between shootings, he looked at an ice bucket sitting in the hotel room, just stuck the bucket on his head and refused to take it off for the rest of the shooting. So they just had to work around it.
That's
I mean, literally, he just put the bucket on his head. They're like, "Why is the bucket on his head?" Like, it's staying. And they're just like, "All right."
it's like he's trying to get fired. He's like, how far can I push this?
Yeah. From what I heard, he's one of those dudes who absolutely hated his fame and everything about it. He hated how he got famous, I think.
Then stop it. No one is forcing you. Like if people come at you with scripts to do movies, don't do them.
Yeah,
If you
right.
don't want to do it anymore, don't.
It definitely feels like one of those, I don't want the attention of acting anymore. Then why are you still acting? It's in my
Yeah.
blood. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, shut up.
Stop it. If
Yeah,
you
it's
don't
like all
want it,
those.
don't do it.
It's like all the celebrities who are like, I don't like being in the spotlight. I don't like everybody seeing my day-to-day stuff. It's like, well, drop out of the spotlight. Not all actors are in the spotlight all the time. I mean, nobody knows what Keanu Reeves is doing half the time. So
In my regular job, I'm a glorified. I don't even glorified. I'm like a paper pusher who doesn't push paper. You know, I do digital things for a company, and if I didn't have to do this, I wouldn't. People would be coming to be like, "Hey Nathan, can you restart this thing right there?" I'd be like, "No, I don't want to."
absolutely not. This
Yeah.
is not what I want to do. I hate this.
I quit doing that for a reason. It's because it was slowly draining my soul looking at the screens for so long. Like, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Ugh.
Somewhere I heard that Marlon Brando's start with hating with acting was because I guess in the 60s he was a major feminist and pro-women lib kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the role he got really popular for was basically playing a misogynist. So everybody kind of assumed he was a misogynist in real life. I feel like
mean,
I heard that somewhere along the line.
If that is the case, fair enough. Like I understand your frustration that you're a feminist and you're popular for a role of being basically a dick.
Yeah.
but-
But again, like you said, he doesn't have to keep acting.
You don't have to keep acting, and B, use that. Like if you got famous for being misogynist, you could absolutely use that to your advantage to
Yeah.
help the
During
struggle.
interviews when people would be like, hey, what's it like to put a woman in her place? And you'd be like, nah,
Yeah, you use that time, use that interview to push
Yeah.
your agenda, like of your.
I
feminist
completely agree
agenda.
with you on that.
But instead, he's going to be a bitch about it.
Yep.
And then people aren't talking. Yeah, sure, he changed the conversation. They changed it from, oh, he must be a misogynist because he played this role. Now they're just like, yeah, he's really difficult to work with and everyone hates him.
And from the summit of the Big Rock Candy Mountain, we get Troubadour Burl Ives as the narrator. One last side bit of info when I was looking through the credits. The actor that was credited as playing card player number 2 was Johnny Weissmuller Jr., son of legendary Olympic diver and the original Tarzan, Johnny Weissmuller, and also the origin of the famous Tarzan yell. That bit of info really means nothing, but apparently Johnny Weissmuller had a kid who is an actor. There you go.
What no interesting tidbit about Tarzan?
Yeah, and he's an
Interesting
Olympic
tidbit-
diver. He was actually the most famous Olympic diver of all time back in the day.
Interesting tidbit about Tarzan is back in the day, it used to be illegal for men and women to have their shirts off because nipples are bad. Now, when Tarzan came out, all these men started going like, "Oh, I want to be like Tarzan," so they started coming out with one nip out while they're doing the other thing. And for a minute there, people were like all upset about it, but then they realized like they couldn't stop. It was so popular. They're like they can't arrest every dude, and so they eventually just kind of relaxed that. So now that's why now it's like that's what the reason why now men can walk around with the shirts off and no big deal. Thanks to Tarzan.
That also explains like the old Tarzan outfits where they had like the singlet covering up the one nipple, but not really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I did not know that.
The more you know, Rainbow.
Indeed. Do. Yeah, the famous Tarzan yell was actually Johnny Weissmuller's real voice, but they played it backwards and filtered it a bit for that iconic sound. So, to keep the movie in budget, they decided to film the movie in nearby Marin County, which is about 10 miles from Skywalker Ranch. And that means that this was the first Star Wars movie to be entirely shot in the United States with an American film crew. Well, I'm proud to be an American where we make Ewok movies.
I prefer to America, fuck yeah.
America, Ewoks, making a movie about the Ewoks locally. All the other Star Wars movies were shot abroad and mostly using British film crews. So this was a first. Isn't that neat? Also, due to these budget constraints, these were the last ILM films that would use traditional stop motion. From Empire Strikes Back and on, they had been using something called Go Motion, which was a fancier, better looking, and more expensive version of stop motion. It involves stuff like motorized puppets and camera tricks to give motion blur, so the movements were way more realistic. Tauntauns were the first ILM Go Motion critters. And you can tell the difference between the smoother, Return of the Jedi guys and kind of the janky Ewok stop motion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thumbs up. Like they absolutely did a great job but it was still stop motion.
Yeah, you can tell it was version 1.0 of stop motion.
Yeah, I mean, it's again like I couldn't do it, and I took an immense amount of talent and patience, and I all the hats off to them, but it's still super obvious that they worked with what they had.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say that stop motion there is about on par with like the old Sinbad movies in this.
Well, I always go straight to oh god,
Jason and the Argonauts.
No,
that's one I usually think of too.
Nah. Oh god, no.
Clash of the Titans.
Yes, thank you.
Aha.
I was like Titans. What is it? Not Teen Titans.
Teen Titans Go.
Yes, Clash of the Titans. That's my go-to. I mean, I understand the other ones that are like probably older and more famous, but just personally for me, I go straight to Clash of the Titans.
Actually, I think Clash of the Titans is the most famous of all those, to be honest.
No, then that one makes sense.
Yeah, isn't that the one with the stop motion skeletons that they fought at one point?
I think they did. There was.
Well, they probably did that in all of those movies.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably Jason Argos, maybe. I don't know.
But honestly, we were probably blending all of those kind of movies together into one movie in our head.
I mean, because one of the main villains, now on the close-ups, it was a dude, but like when you saw him from a distance, like his full body, like it was stop motion. And then you had the big giant sea monster that came up, that was stop motion. I think even Medusa was stop motion. And it always kind of tickled me on the God of War 2. You actually kill the shit out of the main character from that movie because they actually use the same dude, like the voice actor for I don't know what's the character's name. Come on, help me out, man.
Poseidon?
No, the main character of Clash of the Titans.
Played by Liam Neeson in the remake.
What? No, not Zeus.
Oh no, not Zeus. Oh, you mean the main human?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Perseus.
Oh, okay.
So the same actor who played Perseus from Clash of the Titans played Perseus in God of War 2. And boy, howdy, do you do terrible things in it, man. Like, when he dies, like, what you do to this man, by the time he dies, you're like, man, death was probably the best option for you, dude. Kratos.
Stop. He's already dead.
He did not take it easy on him. He was like, oh, hey, Perseus, from the movie Clash of the Titans. No. He was like, hey, Perseus, you got something I want, and you're in my way, so I'm going to murder the shit out of you.
There's one thing Kratos is not known for is subtlety.
Right. I mean, he is, to be fair, in the older game, like the newer games, I should say, now that he's older, he's a little more subtle, not by a lot, but, he is a little more subtle because he's more like, Oh, these old bones are so sick of war. I
Yeah.
don't want to, but I'll murder everyone you've ever known and loved. Meanwhile, in the back of the day, he's like, I can't wait to murder everyone you've ever
Right.
known and loved.
Every morning he wakes up and like, boy, howdy, another opportunity to murder
Right.
1,000 people.
Woohoo!
I just cannot wait.
Did I just accidentally murder an entire city? Whoopsie daisy.
Oops. Well, I was having a bad day anyway, so.
Hell, they were in my way. I needed to open this door so I could go and open this chest. So I killed 1,000 people.
And that's all for part 1 of 2 on the Ewok movies. Stay tuned for the conclusion where we discuss how high definition does not help older special effects, the disturbing way we think Ewoks devour their prey, and why you should always be careful what you ask an orphan. All this and more on the next episode of Oft Off Topic. This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.